Hello, I'm Zeta Kai for the Gunpla Network, and this is the high-grade Universal Century Delta Gundam, released in 2012, selling for its suggested yen price of 4,620 yen, which is admittedly a little high, but if you look at this spectacular gold, you'll understand why it commands that price. This is yet another kit in our kind of coverage of the Hyaku Shiki Delta Plus line. This is technically the progenitor of that whole line. This was like the prototype Hyaku Shiki that they could never get the transformation to work, so they just made the Hyaku Shiki. And this mobile suit actually kind of technically never existed in canon. However, it did appear in like a PlayStation 3 game, and Mobile Suit Gundam UC, I believe is what it was. And it's appeared here and there. So Bandai's cashing in on the unicorn craze, and they made the Delta Gundam, which is spectacular looking. Another gold-coated, awesome-looking kit. Basically, the Gundam version of the Delta Plus is kind of what I think of it as. But technically, again, the ancestor of all things Hyaku Shiki and Delta Plus. Now, before we get into the review proper, I wanted to mention that this kit was sent to us by Canadian Gundam. They are a fantastic small business, family-owned and operated, that can get you all of your Gundam, Gunpla, Plamo, and model building accessories and needs. They can get them to you. They offer flat rate shipping. They offer private warehouses. And if you want to see how their operation works, be sure to check out their video that actually appears right here on Gunpla Network. And be sure to subscribe to their channel on YouTube as well. Please support them. Buy something to build while you're quarantined during this current global crisis. So on to the review. So one thing about the Delta Gundam is it does have some stickers. There are two red ones right there on the shoulders. There are stickers for the cameras and the eyes. You get the option, just like the Hyaku Shiki, to do red eyes or black eyes. I did the red ones, sorry. And the colors are great. You get, of course, the Meki plated gold. You get red like there on the forearms. You get a dark blue. It's kind of a gray black, but really it's a very, very dark blue, like in the ankles there. And you also get some gray bits here and there. The colors work fantastically together. The gold, the red, the dark blue. They look great. Very, very classic. You also get another little sticker right here on the forearm. There's a little red sticker right there. You can see it as it kind of goes off camera. And there are a bunch of little red stickers here on the vents on the legs. I'll show you those in a moment. You get the exposed ankle detail of the Hyaku Shiki line. No working piston. This is a high grade after all. You get red there on the pipes on the backs of the knees. Those look really good. And molded red here on the binders. Those are all molded colors, and they look great. Now, again, I mentioned those vents, those little stickers on the leg vents. These are the same ones that are on the Delta Plus, and I believe on the Delta Kai. We'll see soon. And they're like these 4 little stickers. They're pretty tedious to put on because you have to put 4 on every one of the vents. So that's 16 stickers, but they look really, really good and they work well. The Delta Plus ones, I've had one for years. Another disappointing feature of this kit is that it does have some seam lines here in the shoulders and the binders. They're going to be hard to repair with this Meki plated gold. The typical knee seam line, this is the worst part of this whole line, I feel. All of them have these really bad seam lines in the knees, and you get a seam line right there in the wrist area. But all in all, the build is fantastic. It goes together very, very well. No problems putting anything together. And those are the only issues or complaints that I have with the whole kit. The articulation maybe isn't up to modern standards, but it's good enough. And in fact, let's talk about the articulation. So the head can look up and look down. It's on a double ball joint, and it can turn right or left, but the collar really gets in the way, and you want to be very, very careful that you don't scratch that chrome gold finish. The shoulders are on like this little peg, a post system, and they'll move forward and back and spin all the way around 360 degrees. And the arms will lift up, not very far at all, really. And you don't want to force it again because you will scratch the armor bits there. You have a bicep swivel. You have a single jointed elbow, but it does bend further than 90 degrees. So it gives you pretty much anything you would need. And you get your typical wrist movement on a ball joint right there. The waist is very nice. It's on a nice ball joint. Tons of clearance. You can do the full body copter, and you can tilt forward and tilt back. Next up, we're going to take a look at the skirting. So these side skirts are pegged into the back here, so they can only hinge up and down. They don't have ball joints to move around, the same as on the Delta Plus. However, you do get front skirt armor that moves. The back skirts don't move at all. And that movable front skirts means they can get out of the way to let the leg kick up that far and only kick back about that far. You get a nice double jointed knee that bends pretty far. Very nice bend. And you get a super nice toe bend. Again, that's mostly for the transformation. You know what? I say it's for the transformation, but it's not. You actually tear the whole foot apart. So you just get a lot of toe bend, and you get some nice movement back and forth with the angles, and this little piece here will move around. The hips, unfortunately, are on old school ball joints, so you don't get much of a spread, and you don't get a turning joint at the top. They only turn about that much. The ankles are super free, can rotate all over the place on the nice ball joint. No ankle armor on this whole line, so you have a lot of foot mobility. The binders move around a lot more than on the Delta Plus, and they can swivel up a lot further like this. I don't know why. That's not part of any transformation, but it's cool. Okay, enough articulation. Let's talk about accessories. So the first accessory we're going to talk about is the beam rifle. It's kind of plain, molded in that blue color with a gray handle that flips up for the transformation. It's a pretty nice little beam rifle, pretty standard, looks like it fits in with the rest of the Zeta line. Here's the beam rifle for the Delta Plus for comparison. They look similar, but they are not the same. So the beam rifle also has a nice little slot in the handle, and the trigger finger hand has a peg in it, so it pegs in and is held very, very securely. And you also get an incredible shield. The shield is massive. It is huge, it's triangular, it looks great. It's obviously made to look cool for the Waverider mode. But it is huge, and it's kind of strategic. It has a nice little angle there to deflect blows away. Now, unfortunately, these red parts are all stickers. I don't know why they're not molded in. And this is a sticker down here. I can understand that. You get two kind of nub marks here. These are probably the worst two nub marks on the entire kit. Probably the only two that are really noticeable. And you get some ports here for mounting it to the arm or putting it in the Waverider mode. The beam saber hilts are stored in the shield. It kind of concerns me that they're going to get scratched. You get two beam saber hilts and two beam saber effect pieces. However, you only get one beam saber holding hand, and that is the right hand, so you have to choose between the beam rifle and the beam saber, and it doesn't hold the beam saber hilt that great, actually. Kind of falls out a lot. So that's it for the accessories. They work very well. The shield works great. It pegs in. It has no problem staying in the arm. It is big, but it's very simple, so it's not very heavy. Maybe that's why they didn't use plastic, because it would make it heavier. The beam rifle was held very securely via that tab system. However, having to choose between holding the beam rifle or the beam saber is just annoying. I don't understand that. You do get two closed fists. You can see the one here in the shield hand, and you get one open expressive left hand. So again, the hand choices by Bandai leaves me scratching my head as usual, but that's what you get. So as it rotates around, we'll get it into some poses, use that articulation and those accessories together. Here you can see that open expressive hand. Again, the articulation isn't amazing, but it works well enough to get it into any pose that you want. I mean, here I have it holding the rifle. That's enough articulation. If you can have it do that, that's probably good enough. And you can put it again up on that action base that gets it up in the air. It has the standard 3mm hole in the crotch, and then you can plug in your action base there and get it up in the air like it's meant to be. Those downward facing toes really help to express really cool flying poses. And the shield again is gigantic, huge shield, but has no problems holding it up. I haven't had any problems with the arm holding the shield up. I was a little concerned about that, to be honest, but over the course of the review, I haven't had one issue. Now, the other thing I wanted to look at is the beam saber. Looks great holding the beam saber. Looks better with the beam rifle. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to use these beam sabers that much, but there they are. Let's move on to the next thing. And that next thing is the transformation or parts formation. Just like the Delta Plus and the other ones in this line, you tear this whole kit apart and put it back together. It's quite the process. You have this whole other block that you have to bring in that you build separately. You have like all these little kind of like fake pieces, fake shoulder armor, fake heel armor that you put in, and you tear apart the whole kit and you rebuild it into the Waverider mode. You take your right leg off, you put your right leg back on, you do the hokey pokey, and you turn yourself into a Waverider. There are pieces I don't understand, like why you have a whole new crotch piece and front skirt. There's nothing different about it. It's just a new piece. And these heels, I never understood why you have to change those because the toes fold down. But whatever, this is the way it is. It's nice to not have the holes in the fronts of the knees there. The armor just stays in place, so you don't have that like you do in the Delta Plus. You have those hideous holes in the Delta Plus. And there's nowhere where I'm worried about chrome plastic scratching chrome plastic. All the pieces tab together on the regular plastic parts. You get these nice folding out bits on the binders to make those wings look even more impressive. And you can take the beam rifle and plug it in if you... But I don't really like the look of the beam rifle on the binders. I think it kind of breaks up the silhouette of the Waverider mode, and this is quite the silhouette. Also, I just didn't want to take the trigger finger back apart. But there are 2 slots, one on each binder, so you can equip 2 beam rifles if you'd like. But all in all, this Waverider mode is worth the work put into it. It is so sleek and speedy looking. It makes the Delta Plus look dull in comparison. I mean, there is the gold that shines and shimmers so much. But it does look way more angular than the Delta Plus does. Here's the A to Z Gundam. It's just another Gundam we had in Waverider mode that kind of is in the similar vein. It transforms in a very similar way to the Delta Plus, just kind of like the legs are upside down, like the Delta to the Zeta, same kind of comparison there. And yeah, the Delta Plus is super impressive. It has a gigantic wingspan and looks really, really cool with other model kits. Here's the high-grade Universal Century RIGZ or REGZ, whichever you prefer to call it. Here it is next to the white Zeta high grade that's transformed into Waverider mode. 2 things about this. 1, make sure you check out the upcoming or maybe already released review of the real grade version of the white Zeta done by Gunpla Network's own Mark. And 2, this high grade kit is actually being reissued, and be sure to check out side7exports.com for that. Just a little quick shout out to one of our other sponsors. So let's transform it back into its better mode, which is the Mobile Suit mode. In my opinion, I always prefer Mobile Suit modes, and compare it to some other high grades. So we have, well, first of all, that's the real grade Gundam, and then the high grade Revive Zeta, the Delta Plus, and a Banshee, just because it seemed apropos. So it's pretty tall. It's taller than a regular Gundam, about as tall as a Zeta, not quite as big as a Unicorn, but looks great with the rest of them. Again, it makes the Delta Plus look super dull. So let's look at some other shiny, like treasures from a sunken pirate wreck kits. Here we have the high-grade Akatsuki, the gold-coated Gundam base RX-78-2 Revive, the Phoenix narrative version, and the Gila Shiki. So the Delta Gundam is definitely in that yellowy, orangey gold and less of the silvery gold, the kind of 2 factions of gold that Bandai makes. The Gila Shiki is definitely more of the silver color, and the Delta Gundam is more yellow or orange like the Akatsuki and the Gundam base Gundam. It's not quite as lustrous and deep as the color on the Gundam base version, but it is quite yellow in comparison to some other kits. Like the Hyaku Shiki Master Grade, the version 1.0, is definitely more of the silvery like the Gila Shiki over there. So all in all, what do I have to say about this gleaming, scintillating, beautiful, reflective kit? Well, I love it. So I mentioned a little bit in the unboxing. I didn't go over it as much as I should have, but all of the armor bits on here are undergated. The only gate marks that I have on the whole kit are those 2 that I showed you on the shield. There's 1 or 2 like on the back of the bicep, but it's hidden by that armor. There's some at the bottoms of the binders, but they're so small and so minute that you never ever notice them. You don't have to repair them at all. You don't have to worry about any bad nubs on this entire kit. So the price tag of $45 to $50, something like that, is definitely warranted. You're not going to be disappointed when you get this kit. I know other gold kits, like sometimes you spend that extra money to get the really cool, lovely gold kit, and then you have all these bad nubs all over it, and it's super disappointing. This kit is not one of those kits. It looks so, so good. The light reflecting off of it, it looks so great. The angles on the kit I really like. It's a lot more angular than the Delta Plus. The Delta Plus isn't quite as angular. It's maybe more organic, you might say. I really love the look of the Delta Gundam. I highly recommend it and all of its variants, honestly. Speaking of all of its variants, I will be reviewing the high-grade Universal Century Delta Kai coming up soon. And Boomsy has been checking out the master-grade Hyaku Shiki 2.0, which may have the best gold coating of any Gunpla I've ever seen. So be sure to check those videos out. Be sure to check us out on Discord. Click subscribe. Do all that stuff. And stay safe, everyone. Pay attention to the authorities. Do what you're supposed to do. And keep building.